learning two tunes today from the common repertoire, and they were tunes that some of the tunes that are in the common repertoire, we all, any upper Midwest fiddler knows them all. They're, the ones that we play all the time. And some of them represented specific cultures or specific areas of the upper Midwest and weren't necessarily tunes that we were all that familiar with, but they we wanted to make sure that the list represented all of the different cultures. And so one is a klezmer tune. And so representing the communities in the upper Midwest, some of the strong Jewish traditions in some of the communities in the upper Midwest, as well as another tune from Beaver Island, which you'll have to look on a map, but it's a fairly sizable island up near the upper peninsula of Michigan in Lake Michigan. And it's got quite a history, like with pirates and the whole thing. I mean, it's a great story, but this is a tune that comes from a fiddler in Beaver Island. Apparently, because of its isolation, developed its own sort of little fiddling tradition. So we just had to have a Beaver Island tune, but nobody knew it. So we have commissioned Debbie to teach us these tunes. So Debbie, we're going to have you take it away.
Okay, thanks, Mary Pat. So the first one we're going to do is the Dublin Lasses Reel. And when I received the tune from Brian Miller's website, you should go there, it's really fun. All I had was the notes and the rhythms, no chords. So I added the chords, and I still pretty much like the chords I chose. And I added the bowings, and then I left it for a few days, and then I went back and looked at the bowings, and I thought, oh my God, who did these bowings? And then I realized it had been me. So if you don't feel at one with these bowings, just ignore them. But I'm going to play the whole tune, moderate tempo, just so you hear where we're headed. And I'm going to use the bowings that I used. I'll go all the way to the bottom. I'll take the first ending and then the second ending. And then at the bottom, I really think it needs to go back to the beginning. Otherwise, it's not a whole meal. Anyway, here it is. 1, 2. Play along if you want, or sing along. 1, 2, here we go. Just end it there. It just feels more like a complete thing. I'm really not completely in love with the double stop on the bottom line. Are you guys seeing the lead sheet? Do you have that up?
Yes, we see the sheet.
Okay, great. Okay,
I mean,
so
I have a. Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Yeah. I mean, that double stop was there. In the part that I got from Brian. But I don't like it with the open A. I'd rather have you go. Because then you have the option, if your guitar player wants to do a C major chord rather than an A minor, you can give them the choice. And those grace notes are just really tough if you ignore them. They just fly by. Now what I do for those kind of grace notes, I'll play that F sharp, we're now in measure 17, play the F sharp, but then when I lift it to reveal the E, I don't just lift it, I pull it to the right. So you get a little bit of left hand pizzicato. And the same thing with the, while you're doing the bowing. So that's sort of what I like to do there. There are other double stops you could add and stuff. So let's try the tune all together, but go a little slower. Anyone have any questions so far? Okay, let's go nice and slow. And like I say, if you don't like the bowing, I don't blame you. It's very subjective. 1, 2, and so go with the first ending, then we'll go to the second ending, then we go to the bottom, then we go back to the beginning. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, here we go. The last time, I would definitely add a B under that G. Just makes more of a fun ending. Anyone have any questions? And I hope everyone is muted. I sort of heard an echoey thing of me.
She controls that, I don't.
Okay, never mind. For me, particularly with a G major chord, it's so nice to have that open G string ringing. And under that D, I would normally want to have a D under the A, but then the melody note right away is a D, so that's sort of redundant. But then under that D in measure 4, under that D chord, you have the A, add the open D. Yeah, I would add a B under those Gs as well, starting in measure 10. Yeah, those left-hand pizzicato things are really fun to do, so you should absolutely do them. Okay, anyone have any questions on anything? Any particular weird problems?
I have a question. I would like to know if this song and the ones in this group of songs, are they written, is there a certain time frame that these all fall under, like 1800s, 1900s, 17, like is there a time that it was written?
That's a good question.
It's okay if you don't know.
There's tons of stuff I don't know, but fortunately, Brian Miller knows, and I copied out what was on his website, and the fiddlers that he gained this tune from, Patrick Bonner was born in 1882, died in 1973, he was a Michigan fiddler. Bonner's fascinating fiddle playing was recorded by Alan Lomax, who was a big deal in the recording old-time fiddler people. So it was the late 1800s, probably earlier if he was already playing this tune. So that would be my best guess.
Thank you.
Sure. The other thing is, all these tunes have alternate titles, and that's so interesting. And you always wonder what they mean. So if you encounter a tune that has a title that is not politically correct, but you really love the tune, keep researching, because you will find alternate titles that will be much more acceptable, and then you can use the tune. That's my way out. So let's try the tune one more time, and this time go really fast. Good luck surviving.
Here's what they're singing for the sharing.
Okay, thanks, honey.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm thinking ridiculously fast. A 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can do it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, go. Is everybody still okay? That's the way it goes. So here I am. Now, usually when I teach a tune, I tend to like to teach tunes that I really love or that I have an emotional connection with. So this was a bit of a challenge for me because this was like a first meeting, you know, like Married at First Sight. You've seen that show. It's sort of like that. And I just didn't feel a huge connection with the tune, and I thought there must be something wrong with me because Mary Pat would not lead me astray. This has got to be a wonderful tune. I just haven't found out why. So I changed the key. So I am going to encourage you all to play it in the key of C. And Matt and I have already touched base on this and a couple of my other students, and we tend to think that C might be the better key for this tune. Anyway, it's easy. So you look at the note, you think, oh, I'm going to put a third finger on a D string. Well, instead you put it on the G string. So it's going to be the same fingering that your mind will be reacting to, but you put it one string to the left. And if you're not feeling disoriented, you're probably doing it wrong. So just live with it. Let's do it slowly. Good luck, people. So instead of it's... Anyway, really slow. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, go. Thumbs up if you almost did it. Yay! Okay, let's do it faster. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Good luck. is it this or is it that, you know? Oh, so here it is again, just a little bit in the key of G so you can compare. And I only went to one other key. There are, of course, other keys you could try it in. So. It's just amazing how just changing the key a little bit it's in a different time zone completely. That's what it is. It's just crazy. Any questions or comments? Okay.
Could we go, oh, do we have any? Did I hear anyone?
I have a question.
Okay.
Yes.
Is there a printout for this anywhere?
Yes, I could put it in the chat again. So let me put that in the chat for everyone. And I had a question. If we could go through that B part a few times slower, I think I'm sort of catching your ornamentations, but I think maybe I'll catch them a little better if I have a chance to maybe
Sure.
repeat, because it goes by so fast. And I think
Yes.
I kind of hear what you're doing, but
Okay. So
I'll
let's
mute
take.
and put stuff in the chat, and then yeah, maybe we can play the B a few times slow.
Great, let's do it. And so we'll start with the eighth note pickup just before measure 10. So the last note in measure 9, and then we'll go, and we'll do it real slow. 1, 2, 3, 4. And remember, it's just that little grace note with a hint of just pulling it to the right, so you get that percussive thing amidst all the melody and the rhythm. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Do it again. From the last note of the second ending. 2, 3, 4. Whoops, never mind. And it goes back to the beginning. I completely goofed up measure 13, wouldn't you know? It's always 13. You notice the chord is labeled, it was just my interpretation of what the chord should be, as a D7. Well, when I see that and I'm wondering what double stop to add, and if I plan, I love to add that lowered seventh, because it always has that feeling of it's got to go somewhere else. If I just played a D under the A, that fifth, it would be much more of a solid foot on the floor thing. But this one, you know, you've got one toe just waiting to go somewhere else. So I sort of like to do that there. Did that help at all, Mary Pat? Yay, okay. That's where that's from, in my opinion. Okay, any other questions, comments, complaints? Such a contented bunch of people.
If you
Yes.
go digging, like I just went digging, you don't find much for Dublin Lasses. You find the Dublin reel. But if you go under 5 Mile Chase, you find this song. And it was popular in all sorts of early and middle 1800s books. So with a bunch of different names. Corporal Casey's reel and all sorts of stuff. So you can find it if you're looking for the date piece look to the mid to early 1800s, probably when it came out.
And that's tricky too when you're doing the research. If you don't know enough to seek out the alternate titles, you probably miss half of the stories. So it helps. Okay, so for this next tune, we need to start with a scale. And the scale we'll be doing is called Ahava Rabbah. There was this musicologist who wrote a book called Jewish Music in Its Historical Development. I've not been brave enough to read the whole book, but there's a little quote. He assigns names to each of the different scale patterns. And the scale pattern we'll be working on today is called Ahava Rabbah, which means a great love. And it's also, this mode is often called Freygish, which is spelled Freygish. Do you think that's where Lillian Gish got her name? Ew, these weird things. Okay, anyway, it's a great scale, and I love it. It's one of the few scales that starts out with a half step. I mean, how often do we get to do that? And it's going to be an E. Let's do it. It's an E, then you go to the F, then a G sharp, and then an open A is the easiest way to go, and then the B, and a C, and a D, and an E. Isn't that cool? It's lovely. So here's the tune. It's a two-pager, the way I have it arranged, but I'm just going to play it just to get you started. We'll just go up to a measure 27. At measure 27, it's actually the same tune, but a different harmony. What I often like to do when I get to it the second time is play it an octave higher, but I won't plague you with that at the moment. Let me just play the whole thing from there to measure 26 so you can hear what it is. And it's a walking tempo. It's like those Scandinavian tunes that are called ganglats, where it's deliberately for walking. And that's how I visualize this. It shouldn't be played fast. You could, but you lose the flavor of that half step where you're at least expecting it. Tanst, Yidelekh, which means dance, dance, Jewish person. Just go right back to the beginning. Isn't that cool? So that's probably a readable tempo. Should we do it slower than that the first time? A thumbs up if you want to go slower. And okay, Matt wants to go slower. Yes, okay. Okay. One and two, and a one and a two. It's very heavy-footed kind of a thing. 1 and 2 and. first section, I think the initial decision is the G sharp. Do you use a high 3? Or do you use a low 4, pretending it's an A flat? It's different in each case. If your fourth finger doesn't get in the way of the A string, I would like to use that one. But here, I think a high 3 makes more sense. And then when you get here, slide up to that D. It's called a schmear. So let's do it again, and we'll take the second ending this time. When you take the second ending and you're doing the, don't just play the E. Play the E and the fourth finger on the A string for solidarity and hopefully good intonation. It's just more powerful. So let's do it again from the beginning. We'll take the second ending. 1 and 2 and discuss a couple of those double stops that you could do. The first time through, I tend to do it a little simpler, and then I like to add a little more to it on the repeats. On the repeats, I like to do, I leave my second finger down so that it's right there for a very normal double stop under the E. And then, for the next one, I put my third finger on the A string for the G, for the D, I mean, and then I put it on the D string for the G. So third finger on both strings. Just adds a little flavor, and if you add the open G under the other G, it's just so much richer. Works out really great. For the next place, I wanted to have the G going under the second half of that measure. Again, the second finger just stays on both strings all the way there. But to get there, I do one of my favorite shifts is when you shift when there's a half step. One, and then I move up to second position. Not a big trip, just a little journey. Then I put my 2 on both strings. So it's a 1, 1, 2. Let's do that a couple times. It's a little bit weird, but these things come in handy. Chugga, chugga. 1, 1, 2. Do it again, and 2, and 1, 1, 2. And then you move the second finger up for the G sharp underneath the E. And move it up. And that's kind of cool too. Then you get to it. I like to add that E under that high C. And you can leave that first finger down for a long time. Now, if I have enough preparation mentally on this first ending, instead of just playing 1, I also like to do, it's a barbershop quartet influenced doodle. So when the melody when the melody is going up, I love it if the harmony can come down. It just stretches everything. And then I have the E underneath the C. So it's, so underneath the open A, an F sharp, and then you play the B on the top, and then you pull the second finger down for an F natural. And then you're home free going back to measure 10 with a C on the top and an E on the bottom. So let's do that a couple of times. Once you have experience doing this kind of harmony things, you'll find places to put them. It's really good. Go. F sharp, F natural, E. So the top voice goes very normal. You do it every day. The bottom voice goes it's fun. Okay, so the next section, starting with measure 19. What I do for double stops here is I often steal from the harmony that I previously designed, and it's just so easy. So when you're doing, and again, it's a stylistic thing. I like to accent that G sharp. It's very klezmer-ish. But when I do that, then I add the B underneath. Let's do that a few times. So it's adding an E underneath that open A. I hope you all have pencils handy. It's just lovely to see you writing these things down. Let's do it again. Go. So actually going to use a little bit of bow for that first note, but more bow. So it's not socialism. It's just a little bit of bow and then a lot of bow. Now the same thing here, an open E and a fourth finger. And then you do the same kind of thing again. Yes, we did not discuss the mordents that I have been adding. I love mordents. But you would usually, the mordent would be the note above the note you're ornamenting within the key. So in this case, we have the option. Is it a G sharp or is it a G natural? So here it is. Now here it is if I'm using a G natural instead. It's not a huge difference, but it's a difference, and you just have to decide. And then if you want to do it with the G sharp, do you do it with a third finger G sharp, or do you do it with a fourth finger G sharp? So for me, that's a bigger stretch, and I don't know if I trust it. So I'd be more likely to do it with a 4, because the 4 just goes where it wants to go. So that might be a more reliable way to go. But that's basically what I do with this tune. It's so cool. And this one, too, comes with several different titles. I was once discussing some klezmer stuff with a clarinetist friend of mine, and he was telling me about this tune that he really loved, and I had never heard of it, and then he played it, and it was this one. He said, wait a minute, what's the name of that tune? So it happens everywhere. So, questions, anybody?
I do have 2 questions. Does the Freigisch mean klezmer. Is it the same thing? Those two words you talked about?
Yes, Frege is referring to the specific scale pattern in
Yes.
which we are playing. Klezmer is like the whole thing.
Okay, great. And so for Upper Midwest, I'm very happy to see there's different cultures and this tune in here in particular. Now, I am from the state of New York, where there is a very large Jewish population, but I'm not aware of one in the Upper Midwest. Are we talking about like Chicago, or?
Oh, we are talking about my whole town, Milwaukee.
Okay, all right.
Oh, yes, we have Golda Meir Elementary School because Golda Meir was born in Milwaukee, well, was raised in Milwaukee.
All right, so that's part of Upper Midwest.
It
I
sure
don't
is.
know. Okay.
Yeah, it sure is. There were also, in addition, so probably one of the largest metropolitan areas would be the Milwaukee area. There certainly was some settlement in the Twin Cities as well.
Right, right.
But that, you know, I think the population of Milwaukee, because of all the Germans that moved into Wisconsin, and then later the Russians, and so that's where you have there's a large Russian Jewish population in the Milwaukee area as well.
Okay.
And so, however, there were also, and Debbie and I have talked about this in other workshops, there was a rural population. So there were rural populations because Jewish immigrants were, like anyone else, attracted to
Land.
the land.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
there were small Jewish communities that would, made efforts to settle. Unfortunately, because of various biases and, because many people were not successful on the land, they went back. But there were also some of the various prejudices and other kinds of things that were happened. So there were Jewish settlements that were tried, and a lot of times the Jewish families ended up going back to the urban areas where they had family and they had social support and there were jobs and more of an economy. So now that was not that unusual for the other cultural groups as well, because this was a grand experiment of giving everybody, the 10 acres
Right.
stuff that could not sustain a family. It was really bad public policy. So there were a lot of people who starved. So
I knew you picked this because it's appropriate, but from my perspective of growing up in New York, I'm like, where are we talking about? So
there you go.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah. So, well, like I said, being a Milwaukee girl, let me tell you.
Okay.
So,
okay.
I didn't even have to think twice.
Oh, good,
I'm like,
good,
well,
yeah.
of course there's a Jewish population in the Upper Midwest. I went to school there, everybody. So,
All right. Well, this is a really nice tune.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out where I could play it, learn it first, because it's really nice, nice little tune.
It's catchy. I mean, it's the kind of tune that I hate to teach my students. There are a few tunes like that where I don't want to teach them Boda Valsen because they won't want to go anywhere else. And this tune is like that. So you have to be careful. It's like meeting the right guy when you're 3 years old. What good is it? So let's try the whole tune.
All right.
A nice mellow thing, and let's do it all the way down to the bottom of the page. And I will try to play it an octave up that second time, and we'll see if you think it was worth it, or if I just should have stayed where I was in the first place. So nice, and it's a walking tempo. Chugga, 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 chugga. 1 and 2 and 1. And have fun. And that's a very standard klezmer ending, is just a chord and another chord. Sometimes faster, sometimes slower. Isn't that a great tune?
And I noticed, of course, that you went up an octave. Is that also kind of was that just a Debbie thing or is that a klezmer thing?
It's a Debbie thing. Although, octaves are powerful. And if you want to add a harmony, you want to make it a little thicker and you're not sure what notes to use, there's something very powerful and it creates more solidarity, I think, when you're playing in octaves with people. Not one at a time, they're difficult. I mean, start really listening to the stuff you're listening to, whether it's classical or anything else, and see if you can pick out in the texture times when people are playing the same notes but in different octaves. And it just has more of a drive to it. And that's one of the reasons I really love this fiddle, because I've got the E and the A and the D and the G and a C, so I can more often than not, when I have a student playing a standard fiddle tune, I can play that tune with them an octave lower. And they are better able to hear their intonation, because they sort of hear where they are, but they don't confuse it with me because we're just an octave apart. Let's see. Okay, I should be able to do this an octave lower. I've not practiced this. I hope you are all sitting down and in a good, forgiving, patient mood. Whoops. It's just kind of nice to have that leeway, which is very fun. Any other questions about the tune or the ornaments or the what to do? Well, let's do it again. Pick your octave, it doesn't matter. I wonder if I can actually do the whole thing an octave lower. I'm going to try it an octave lower. When I play a wrong note, don't play that note. Play the note that you should be playing. Just ignore me. Follow me when I'm right, and when I'm wrong, just, do the right thing. Chugga, 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 chugga. Where's an E? There it is. 1 and 2 and 1, and here we go.